You didn't encounter this message by accident. The fact that you're here, absorbing these words at this exact moment in your life, represents far more than random browsing or algorithmic chance. Your consciousness has been calibrating itself for this precise intersection of readiness and revelation. Something within you has been quietly preparing for this conversation, creating the perfect conditions for these insights to land not as abstract concepts, but as profound recognition. There exists within you a frequency you've been attempting to dampen, a resonance from the deepest chambers of your being that you've mistaken for static interference. At this precise moment, you can sense it not as a burden, but as a steady pulse. A persistent vibration in the foundation of your existence, a discord in the symphony of your daily life. It's the ancient guardian, forged in forgotten conflicts, commanding you to reinforce your defenses, triple your vigilance, and strategize for every imaginable catastrophe. But what if the citadel you've been constructing was never designed to shield you, but to confine you? What if the very shell you've hardened, gleaming and impenetrable, is what blocks the illumination from entering? You've been gripping a crossbow string drawn so tight for so long, targeting an invisible, distant mark, that you've forgotten the bolt's destiny is not to remain knocked, but to fly free. You've been charting your course using coordinates of a reality that has already transformed, attempting to navigate back to a coastline that has long since eroded. And here lies the most emancipating truth. The instant you release the tension, the moment you trust the constellations instead of the obsolete charts, that is when your authentic voyage commences. This represents neither a homily offering forgiveness nor a dissertation promising effortless solutions. This serves as a reflection pool. It reveals a principle so fundamental it's encoded in the rotation of galaxies and the patterns of migrating herds. The ultimate triumph is not accomplished through brute determination, but through the profound elegance of harmonious flow. By this exploration's conclusion, you will comprehend the sacred contradiction that sages and visionaries have whispered across millennia. Sometimes the soil must rest fallow to produce an abundant yield. Sometimes the vessel must drop its canvas to be carried by the authentic current. Sometimes you must become hollow to finally be replenished. But let's establish clarity, for this is where the pathway often becomes obscured. I'm not advocating passivity, resignation, or allowing chaos to overtake your garden. I'm describing the most courageous and potent act available to any architect of reality. I'm speaking of intentional surrender, the type of transformation that doesn't merely unlock doorways, but dissolves the barriers between them entirely. The kind that perceives the tempest not as an impediment, but as the very force that will propel you across the vast waters. Allow me to illustrate this principle within the landscape you navigate daily. Consider that innovative venture, that masterwork residing within you that you've been attempting to manifest through pure force of will. You know the one. The novel you outline and re-outline but never compose. The artwork you criticize before the initial mark is made. The enterprise you analyze into complete paralysis. You're clinging to a flawless vision in your consciousness, so terrified that the tangible version will contain imperfections, that you suffocate it before it can take its first breath. But observe what occurs when you finally release your rigid blueprint, when you stop dictating to inspiration and instead invite it to collaborate, when you exchange the dictatorship of perfection for the liberation of creation. Something miraculous happens. The project either develops its own momentum, becoming something more magnificent than you could have ever orchestrated, or it gracefully withdraws, allowing the true masterpiece that was waiting in the wings to step forward. Perhaps it's an outdated persona you cannot abandon. The dutiful child, the dependable one, the overcomer. You've inhabited it for so long, it feels like your actual skin. You shoulder its burdens, fulfill its obligations, and exist within its restrictive boundaries because the prospect of being undefined feels terrifying. You believe this role maintains your safety, affection, and worth. But that identity is a phantom. It's a monument to someone you no longer are. When you release the narrative of who you were expected to become, you don't vanish into emptiness. You create the capacity to embody everything you truly are. You stop reciting memorized dialogue and begin speaking in your authentic voice, magnetizing those who are meant for the genuine you, not the character you've been performing. And then there's the grand illusion, the fixation with tomorrow. The endless branching possibilities of what might occur, each one meticulously examined for potential threats. You spend your evenings negotiating with phantoms, preparing for conflicts that exist solely in your imagination. But here's the secret that will liberate your spirit. You were never intended to be the engineer of the future. You are the creator of this very instant. All the energy you invest in mapping uncharted territories is energy diverted from the only realm where you possess genuine influence, the sacred, limitless now. The moment you abandon the fantasy that you can script what's coming, you discover a deeper faith. A faith in your own capacity to dance with whatever rhythm emerges. You always have possessed this ability. This represents the fundamental misconception. People equate release with failure. they believe it means their efforts were meaningless, that their aspirations were too ambitious. But that's despair, not surrender. And these two concepts don't even exist in the same dimension. Authentic release is a proclamation of sovereignty. It's a conscious redirection of your vital energy. It's choosing to stop pouring your essence into a fractured container. It's the wisdom to distinguish between currents that will transport you and whirlpools that will ensnare you. It's the recognition that when you cease your conflict with reality, reality ceases its conflict with you. Envision a vessel on the ocean. During a storm, the inflexible mast is most susceptible to snapping, but the sails, which yield to the wind and harness its power, are what provide the ship its velocity and direction. Your breakthrough doesn't lie on the far side of a stronger mast. It lies on the far side of learning how to utilize your sails. Your clarity isn't waiting for you to possess all the solutions. It's waiting for you to become comfortable with the mysteries. Your greatest achievement isn't dependent on you struggling harder. It's dependent on you learning the rhythm of the breeze and the wisdom of the currents. Right now, a part of you, the most ancient part, recognizes the harmony in these concepts. You feel it as a relaxation in your chest, a sense of returning home, a quiet inner knowing that whispers, there is a flow, and you are integral to it. When you finally heed that knowing, when you stop attempting to paddle against the cosmic tide and instead learn to ride it, the universe reorganizes itself around you, not in a sudden upheaval, but with the steady, undeniable grace of a blossom turning toward sunlight. That profession you cling to for its status, the one that funds your lifestyle but starves your essence, feels like a fortress. You're afraid that releasing it means stepping off a precipice. But what if it's finally unfurling your wings? When you release the demand for guaranteed results, you open a channel for callings that feel like devotion, for prosperity that flows rather than being hunted, for a definition of achievement that fills you rather than depletes you. Or consider that inner judge, the one you've been attempting to silence for years. You've argued with it, shamed it, tried to banish it. But the more you battle it, the louder it becomes. Resistance amplifies its voice. What you wage war against becomes your ruler. When you release the struggle and instead listen with detached curiosity, with the compassion you would offer a frightened child, its power dissolves. It stops being the despot in your mind and becomes a simple, weary echo from yesterday. You don't conquer your shadows, you integrate them. You become your own refuge. Let this be understood. Letting go is not a single event. It's a practice, like breathing. It's the moment-by-moment choice to unclench your grip around what has passed so you can receive what is arriving. Some days, the grip will tighten again. Some days, the old armor will feel safer than your own bare essence. And that is the dance. That is the human aspect of this divine process. The mastery isn't in never grasping again. The mastery is in the gentle, recurring recognition of the tension and the conscious, loving choice to soften. It's in knowing that your attachment is an illusion, but your connection to the flow is your inheritance. Now, let me briefly pause to acknowledge what typically occurs at this point in such conversations. If these insights are creating recognition within you, and you sense this exploration should continue evolving, the most meaningful way to nurture that is through your engagement. It's not merely about numbers, but about creating a signal that profound transformation deserves support and continuation. Think of a seed. It doesn't resist the darkness of the earth. It doesn't struggle against the husk that contains it. It surrenders to the process. It trusts the darkness. It allows the shell to crack, and in that act of surrender, it discovers the light. Not through force, but through faith. Not through struggle, but through unfolding. This is your invitation to become that seed, to trust the darkness of the unknown, to allow the old shell of who you thought you were to fall away, to discover that breaking is not the conclusion, but the beginning. And here is the most beautiful part. The moment you truly surrender, the moment you stop demanding and start allowing, the universe rushes in to conspire with you. Synchronicities accelerate. People appear as if summoned, carrying keys to doors you didn't even know you were seeking. Answers to long-held questions appear whispered on the breeze or written in the stars. It is as if you've been trying to force a symphony with a single, strained instrument, and in the silence of your surrender, you suddenly hear the entire orchestra that was waiting to perform your song all along. The masterpiece was never meant to originate from you. It was always meant to flow through you. Your destiny is not a trophy to be claimed. It is a river to be entered. Your joy is not a reward for your pain. It is the natural state that emerges when you stop believing you are unworthy of it. Right here, in this breath, is the point of power. Not tomorrow when you are improved. Not next year when you are prepared. Now, in your magnificent, imperfect, sacred humanity, the great ocean of your existence has been patiently waiting. It knows your name. It knows the way home. It is a place far more expansive and beautiful than the small harbors you've been afraid to leave. So, let the breath you've been holding finally release. Feel the tension dissolve from your shoulders. This is your moment. This is your permission to lay down the weapons of a war that is already over. This is your invitation to open your hands, to trust the voyage, and to discover that letting go is not losing. It is finally, truly winning. The ocean knows where you're going, and to conclude, a small practice. If you've journeyed this far and felt something shift within you, anchor that transformation. Write in the comments, "I trust the current." Let this serve not just as words, but as your personal commitment. The moment you chose to stop fighting the flow and started moving with it.